Hello, hey. I'm just running a couple minutes late. I actually, sorry about that, was looking for my glasses. So if any of you have specs here, you kind of know how that goes. Like you have certain ones for certain things, and the ones I needed tonight were like not where they usually are. So anyway, here I am. I'm glad y'all are here, whoever can make it tonight. And if you can't and you end up watching the replay, please add hashtag replay in the comments just so I know how far out this is reaching. I'd like to reach as many people as possible who are struggling on their path with chronic illness or any kind of chronic condition. And so tonight's live is really about just kind of recapping what I talked about in the 3-part series this week on boundary setting for chronic thriving folks. If anybody isn't familiar with me, my name is Ella Belfair, and I am the founder, I guess for lack of a better word, of the Chronic Thriving page, which is a page that I started about 4 years ago when I found that on my own chronic invisible illness with late-stage neurological Lyme and mercury toxicity and a number of other co-infections to go along with that, just to make it more fun, that there wasn't really a whole lot of support out there outside of my practitioners because there isn't a whole lot known, and we just kind of as a society aren't really taught how to kind of deal with chronic invisible illness. So I started it as kind of an outlet for myself to be like able to like put down into words what I felt and thought and those kinds of things. And then I really decided, well, like if I am feeling that way, then I'm sure there are other people who are as well. And at the early part of my illness, there wasn't any type of social media. So this was all new, and I'm excited to be able to continue on this journey with y'all, whoever wants to be a part of it. If you're here, just give me a, I'm not really seeing anybody yet, but it could just be, it could just be, sometimes they don't show up right away for me. So anyway, if you're here, send me an emoji, give me a heart shower, give me a smiley face shower, whatever your emoji of choice is. And I'm also, just wanted to let you know too, I'm also a chronic illness mentor. I'm a soulful life coach. I'm an empowerment guide for empathic and highly sensitive folks, HSPs, which I've been finding on my journey a lot of us are, right? So a lot of us who have chronic illness are also empathic and highly sensitive people. So the illnesses really impact us like a whole lot more than we'd really want them to, but it is what it is, right? So anyway, what I just wanted to kind of cover was on day one, I actually talked about like what a boundary actually is, because I'm going to be honest with you, before I got sick, I didn't really know what the concept of a boundary was. It was kind of like a foreign, like I know what a boundary is, like a physical boundary, like a flood wall or something, but I didn't know what really the concept of boundaries was and like in your personal life until I got sick. And then I was like starting to meet with my mentor, and I had to start setting boundaries so that I could continue to on my treatment plan, right? Without wearing myself out and not taking care of myself, and literally like having to save my life. So what a boundary is, and I have little notes here, so if I'm kind of going off to the side a little bit, that's why, because I just didn't want to forget any of the really important stuff. I also have brain fog and those kind of things still to deal with daily, and sometimes it's worse than others. So I just figure having notes to be on the safe side. So anyway, a boundary is what you expect from other folks in regard to their behaviors and also their non-behaviors. So it also could be what they're not doing. Okay. It's their treatment of us. It's the guidelines and rules that we get to decide on, like what is okay and what is acceptable in our world, right? Especially as chronic thrivers. I was posting a post today. I forget exactly what the meme said, but it was basically like a person commented that like when someone in their family got cancer, like their family like wanted to learn all about it and Googled and all those kinds of things. But when they were chronically ill, it was just like, there was nothing really, there was no like active support in that. So when I say non-behaviors, that's what I'm referring to. Like what's okay? Like, are you, what is, what are you going to allow? What are you going to what is okay with you. And it's going to be very individual, right? And also very individual based on the severity of our illness. So anyway, that's what a boundary is. And as I pointed out in day one, as chronic thrivers, if we don't set our boundaries, like if we don't have them in place, and it's not like they're going to all appear overnight, or we're going to magically get downloads and be like, here's my list of boundaries, and I'm like laying these out, and I'm going to, get one of those things and like holler out my boundaries, and everybody better abide by them, and that's end of the story kind of thing. It's not like that. But when we don't set them as we go along our way, what ends up happening for chronic thrivers and people with, really serious conditions, and even not, really serious conditions, just whatever you're, and who's to decide what, what is not really serious and what is. But what happens is we end up using that energy that when we don't set the boundary, we end up using the energy from not setting the boundary. We end up using up more of our own energy. And so then that energy that really needs to be allocated for our healing, like on all levels, physical, emotional, mental, maybe even spiritual, we don't get to have the full effect of that because by not putting up, our boundary, we're still using and exerting too much of our energy toward things that we would be better off delegating, or we would be better off like not doing. This can come in the form of let's just say you are saying yes to things that really your body is too compromised to be doing, but you've always done it in the past. I went through this, so this is a good example. And you push yourself to do it anyway, even though you full well know that later you're going to have to be exhausted and not be able to even make yourself something to eat because you already exerted all of that energy to do something for someone else. And it can be really challenging because when I got sick, my kids were really small, and I had to put the boundary up of, for a while at that time that I couldn't, within my family, that I could not take my kids to school or pick them up because I was too physically ill. I was unable to do that. If I did that, I couldn't even get off the couch at some points, except for to go to the bathroom. So for me to try to exert myself into doing something even bigger, like going for a car ride and that kind of thing, and being exposed to a bunch more chemicals, like all the exhaust and gas and stuff like that that's given off by other vehicles, I would just be useless for maybe a couple days, literally. Or I would have to end up going to the emergency room because of my MCS, multiple chemical sensitivity, and being shot up with prednisone, and then that would put me back days upon days upon days with no sleep. So what I'm saying is, when we know, our body knows, our intuition, our gut knows, when we need to set those boundaries. So just, it's hard, and I get it, especially when it comes to kids and family and stuff like that, and you're unwell. But just know, but by setting those, then you can be available possibly in other ways. I was able to then talk with my kids, or, be of emotional support, even though I couldn't do the physical labor stuff. So that's one example where not setting boundaries actually comes back to bite us in the butt in a big way. Okay. And then, on day 2, I talked about what setting a boundary does. So setting boundaries allows us to expand our awarenesses of ourselves, of others, of our world. You may even expand in I ended up expanding into my spiritual side and really getting connected to Source as I see Source and my angels and things like that. Also, you get to decide what's working and not working in your relationships. Because when you start to set the boundaries, of course, a lot of times there is going to be pushback or misunderstanding, or maybe people take it personal. So that's another place. And if anybody wants to post anything on here, I'm not seeing any posts, so I don't know if I'll see them. If you do post something and I'm not responding, it's just because I'm not seeing anything usually like I do at the bottom. So I'm not really sure why that is. Because I always say, everybody participate, and I'm not the only one talking, but if you do write something and I don't see it, that's why. I'm not, not ignoring anybody. I'm just not seeing who's all here. I'm occasionally seeing the likes or the hearts, but I'm not seeing the actual people that are on. Okay, so I was talking about we get to decide what is working or not working in our relationships. So that can be a relationship with yourself, like, that you have to really like up your game on like the self-compassion, right? And the empathy for yourself. It's a big one. And then also when you do that, it's going to also draw your attention to like behaviors or non-behaviors, or attitudes from folks, most of us probably have experienced in some type of way where, we've gotten pushback or attitude or non-acceptance of what we're going through, or like with a lot of folks in the Lyme community, we're just completely, a lot of times, dismissed and denied and, disrespected as far as like, oh, it's not a thing, you're not sick, you're really not that sick, all that kind of stuff, right? So it really draws you into like, start to decide and pay attention to like what is working in these relationships and what is not working, and what am I going to do about it? So, and I know that can be daunting when you're really unwell. I totally get it. But it's still so important that we do it, because it actually helps in the healing process. Like when you're setting the boundaries, then like I said earlier, you can use the energy that you would have lost by not setting it to like continue to do your healing, whether that be like you need, extra sleep, or you need like an extra detox bath or a sauna, or if you just need time to yourself to like, if you're having like anxiety or depression issues, like you can, be with yourself and just do what you need to do to work through that, like through journaling or just having that quiet time to like refill your cup. So that's all just so important, no matter what the condition is that you're struggling with. You also get to, by setting boundaries, you also get to grow in the direction of your soul's longing, and at a pace that suits you. So if you, let's just say that you, like for me, like I love connecting with people and helping them with like their spiritual side, right? So I've been able to like slowly, not overnight, but like slowly work into that more and more. That's like my soul's desire, to like help other people, right? So whatever your soul desire may be, if you're setting a boundary, then you'll be able to follow that more. If you're always doing everything for everybody else, when you do have an extra spurt of energy or some extra chi, some extra energy, then what happens is we just completely deplete again, right? And so we're always like, we feel like the hamster on the wheel, like we can never get off of there. We're always like, and then just as soon as we think we're going to get off, we're back on. So setting the boundaries is so important for chronic thrivers in so many ways. We also, by setting boundaries, get to decide what's best for us regarding medical treatment. I know a lot of people that I've spoken with, especially around Lyme, get a lot of grief for their treatment selection. And the thing is like it's so much more complicated than what people really think. And we won't get all into that because that could be a whole nother live, right? But at the end of the day, no matter what your choices are at the time, people really need to respect that. And if they're not, and consistently giving us grief or talking behind our backs and all this kind of stuff, that really just isn't productive in any way, right? If it's like conscientious concern and curious questions with non-judgmental questions, that's a whole different ball game. But if it's a thing where we're just getting kind of bombarded or belittled or hit or disrespected about our treatment options or our choices, that's just not okay. We wouldn't do that with somebody that has an illness that receives automatic belief, so let's not do it with illnesses that we don't even know anything about, right? Then also, in general, we just get to decide what's best for us in general and how to proceed and at what pace. So a lot of times with chronic invisible illness, there's like this expectation of like, well, you know what, you look fine now, so I think you should be able to get back to what you were doing, get back to your role, get back to your, whatever you were doing in life before you got sick. And that just isn't the way it works. So we get to decide, we get to put those boundaries up of like, hey, like, You know, I may look this way today, but that doesn't mean that I can do, you know, A, B, and C, even though it may look that way. And we just really have to follow our gut on those types of things, even though it can be challenging. What I personally posted about on day 2 was kind of the things that I'm not allowing. And this list could be different for you, but I'll just kind of share my list, and that way it can kind of get your juices flowing for if you have a list, you know, mental list or list that you want to write down. And on my list is I'm happy to answer questions about choices I've made on my healing journey, whether it be related to medical or spiritual or whatever. Like recently I have a name change too, and I'm willing to answer questions about that one time. But I'm not willing to spend my energy, expend it a second time, especially if it's being questioned in a critical way or disrespectful way. My energy is just too precious for that, so I'm not willing to do that. And like I said, this can be toward any, you know, decision I've made along the way towards my personal growth or treatment. But yeah, I'm not gonna. I used to do that, like over-explain, over-justified. I just had that situation not too long ago with my name change with somebody, and I'm just not willing to do that again. That was like, I put in the post how it happens so that I would be like, oh, I got this boundary setting thing down now. It's awesome. Like, I can do this with ease. And then like the next one would come up, and that's what happened recently. And I'm like, I'm not doing that no more. So it's all learning. It's good. It's all good. Learning situations for us. But yeah, that's my first and foremost ones. People's opinions and uneducated suggestions regarding treatment choices and things like that. What I have is super complex. So, you know, if folks want to offer, you know, rude comments or opinions or like uneducated suggestions on a regular basis, ain't doing. No can do. So that's my second one. And then my third one is a generally unsupportive attitude. So if they're what I call half-assing it in my life, well, where they're like, oh, well, you know, we know you're sick, but just don't talk about it, or just don't whatever, that's half-assing. Because me being unwell is a huge part of my life. And it's not something I can just put away or, you know, compartmentalize into another part of my studio apartment or something. It ain't going to happen. So if they're half-assing it, then likely we'll half-ass get along, or you know, they'll be in my life, but it'll be half-ass. So, but I'm not going to like hold back anymore from like, you know, like acting like I'm not sick or pretending like I'm more well than I am on a given day. It just ain't going to happen anymore. I've been doing that for so long. And we get trapped into that a lot of times as empathic and sensitive people, because we're trying to make other people around us happy and people please and all that stuff. And nope, all done. So those are my 3. And then day 3, I talked about loving ourselves through setting and maintaining our boundaries. So what can happen a lot of times in a chronic illness situation is we can set the boundary, but then it can be really hard to maintain those, right? Because let's just say, I'm just trying to think of an example from my own life. Like when my kids were little, you know, what would happen if like that ride, you know, wouldn't show up or something, you know? In that situation, I was too sick. I would have had to have called somebody else to pick them up. So maybe that's not a good example. But, you know, there are situations like that where we like can't do something, but then, you know, we like feel guilty and we feel like, oh my gosh, I should be able to do that. So like, I'm going to just do it. And then we end up really sick for days on end, right? So we actually put ourselves backward. So really loving ourselves through setting and then also maintaining the boundaries is a big one for chronic thrivers. Setting them, I think I talked about that earlier, can feel overwhelming. I totally get it because we're so exhausted. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to do another thing. But we want to send ourselves the message that our needs and our desires and our boundaries are important, right? because they are. And so this becomes empowering, even as a person with a chronic illness. We need as much empowerment as we can muster, right? So loving ourselves through those, and then just really having compassion for ourselves, even when we need the extra sleep, even when we, have to shop and we're exhausted and we don't really want to have to go for the extra good food that we need, and we're mad at ourselves. Like, sometimes I would just be like, why can't I just, go order a pizza, but like recognizing like, okay, that's going to make me really unwell, so I'm not going to do that. But like having compassion for myself for being frustrated about it as well, because then I would get mad at myself for being frustrated, right? So, so it's a whole nother level of compassion that we really have to learn to have for ourselves. And the good thing is we learn to have it for others then as well, right? It's like a domino effect. It's like it spreads out. It's like this tree and like the branches, and then, like we're centered in this compassion for ourselves, and the energy of that branches out to other people, right? So we can help others on their journey as well. Some examples of I think I did mention this earlier, but saying yes when we mean no, and also when we need to delegate so that we can take care of ourselves. That's another important boundary. So learning to say no when we mean no, and then also learning to delegate, right? So if we have kids or other people in the family, like, it is hard, but they might, they're going to have to do maybe, bigger chore list, or, help a little bit extra, whatever that may be, is going to be a part of it as well, right? And then I talked about too how often as highly sensitive people and as empaths, we often fall into the trap of anticipating what other people's needs are before ours. And while this is, a cool quality to have when you have a healing practice, we also have to learn that, other people's needs are important, but so are our needs important. As highly sensitives and empaths, we feel so strongly what other people's needs are. So kind of like figuring out how to like recognize and acknowledge those without absolutely putting those all first before ours, right? So having that balance. And then I also talked about on that day about what we should be expecting. Like we matter. We deserve humane and considerate treatment. We didn't ask for the chronic illness that we have. We still deserve, as quality of a life as we can have, which is already super challenging anyway. And if we have other people around us making it more miserable, how awful is that? So, and then what I want to do now is, so that was day 1, day 2, and day 3 of the 3-part series. And you can go back to that. I'll have my post pinned at the top of my Chronic Thriving page for a few more days, probably into like next week. So if you want to access any of day 1 or day 2 or day 3 without having to go through all the posts, they're all pinned in the comments, or they're all listed in the comments of that pinned post at the top of the page. So there's day 1, day 2, and then day 3 also, okay? And so now what we're going to do for anybody that wants to join is I'm going to go ahead and do an intro to energetic boundary setting. So I found this to be super important as well on my path, and that's why I really wanted to share it, because I found out that I wasn't only healing on not only on a physical and emotional level, and mentally too, because neurologically, right, the spirochetes and all those kind of little fun little guys have a party in our brain. So, but also I was finding that energetically, I was really having to learn to support myself there. I didn't realize how sensitive and empathic and intuitive and those things that I was until after I got sick. So it was like my soul was saying, okay, now this is what you will learn next or need to learn to help yourself and to help other people. And I said, okay. So I didn't always say it that easily. Believe me, I've had many conversations with them on why does this have to be so challenging? Why do we have to have this on top of everything else already that we have? It's so much. The magnitude of it can be huge, and believe me, I get it. But I do feel that this is my soul's purpose is to help others with this as well who are struggling. And so what you'll want to do now, and I may even close my own eyes because I probably will be able to concentrate a little bit better. So if you look at the screen and you're like, her eyes are closed, that's why. So what I'm going to have you do now is just be comfortable with wherever you're at, or if you need to move, that's okay too. So you might want to just close your eyes. If you're in a chair, just kind of lay back. You can lie on the floor, on your sofa, on your bed. Maybe you're already lying down. So however you feel most comfortable. And I'll probably just kind of come back and open my eyes occasionally to make sure that we're still live. And then what you'll want to do is take a deep breath in. Just count to 3 silently as you take in that breath. And then breathe out through your nose or your mouth, breathing out at count of 3 as well. We're going to take 3 breaths in total, so go ahead and take in another breath to a count of 3 and releasing on a count of 3. And noticing that with each additional breath, you become more relaxed, more comfortable, more secure, feeling very safe where you're at. And then go ahead and take a 3rd breath in on a count of 3, and then breathing out on a count of 3. Feel your body just relax. Allow it to just calmly become one with the surface that you're sitting or lying on. You're just being supported by your sofa or your bed, your cushions, your pillows. You're just being supported by all of that. And know that you're just supported in general on your journey. And as you find yourself relaxing more and more to the rhythm of your breath and the sound of my voice, notice how at the bottom of your feet you can imagine beautiful energy cords coming out the bottom of your feet, and just envision them. These beautiful energy cords in the bottom of your feet extending into the earth below you through the beautiful layers of supportive, nurturing soil from our planet Earth, from our Mother Goddess Earth. And see those beautiful energetic cords wrap around the center of the earth. Feel yourself anchored by those energy cords being secured to the core. And then feel the energy, the support, the love the earth gives back. And feel that beautiful, light-infused, light-filled energy coming back up through those energetic cords, up through your feet, and now allow it to completely flow through your entire. Allow that beautiful, light-infused energy, supportive energy, to flow through and out the crown of your head, which is at the very top center. See that beautiful energy flowing outward and encompassing your whole body in a beautiful bubble of peaceful, healing light? What colors are within your bubble? What colors make up your bubble? Feel the bubble completely surround you. And as it surrounds you and you feel protected, ask for your guides, your angels, your deities or your goddesses, ascended masters, those who have passed, anyone that you would like to be a support for your energy protected field. Ask them to be with you below, above, around, and ask them to help you keep that field of energy, that supportive field of energy in place. And throughout your time, throughout your evening, if you feel as if you are approaching something that's upsetting or overwhelming, just remember and acknowledge that that energy is totally flowing up through your feet, out through your head, around your body, and it's a continuous flow where the energy is making a constant circle and constantly coming back out of your head, under your feet, and constantly creating a circle of replenishing energy. Know that you can do this any time of the day or night, and that your guides and angels, archangels, are always there to assist and bring you peace. Just going to allow you to sit there for a couple of seconds, feeling the supportive energy that you've received through the Mother Earth, knowing that it's guiding and protecting you. And so now just go ahead and bring yourself back by wiggling your toes, maybe moving your feet a bit, wiggling your fingers, moving around a little bit, and then opening your eyes to come back to the room. And thank you for joining that meditation with me. You can replay this as many times as you like if that was helpful for you. And then also I wanted to mention, if that was helpful to you, I do have a new meditation for energetic boundary setting that I just released. When you join to continue to support the Chronic Thriving page, when you join Patreon, I have for as low as $7 a month, you have access to that most recent energetic boundary setting meditation, which I think is about 7 minutes long, maybe 8. And then you also get access to my private group, which I just started, which is called the Chronic Thrive Hive, which is really a group that I built for folks who are chronically unwell and struggling to be in there to have mutual support of each other, and really to build community is what that's all about. So anyway, to retrace that, basically for joining the Chronic Thrive, or for joining the Patreon community right now, and I'll put that link in the comments. You've probably seen it on my page if you're on there a lot, but I will put that in the comments after this live. If you join the Patreon community, there's different tiers and different levels at which you can join, and so depending on which one, it's different. Like some have monthly angel cards that I personally pick, some have monthly journal prompts and so forth. And so anyway, when you join that, then you also have access to my new meditation, and then any meditations that I post in there throughout. And then also you have access to the Chronic Thrive Hive community, which is a branch off of Chronic Thriving, but is a private group for members to really support each other and build community in there. So if you have any more questions, private message me or post below. I'm going to go ahead and just let you just kind of bask in your energetic boundary bubble there. I like to do that for quite some time afterwards, just because it's so calming and peaceful. And sometimes you even have little messages that come through, as far as guidance and things too. So thank you so much for joining me and for participating in the week of the 3-part series for boundary setting for chronic thrivers. I hope you all have an awesome weekend, and peace out.